If you accidentally ate too much sugar and now you're either wired or the complete opposite because you've already crashed, or maybe you're having mood disturbances like feeling super anxious, or you've already reached the hangover stage and are generally just feeling like a piece of crap. Well, if any of these physiological states sound familiar, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a clinical nutritionist, and today's video is not about how bad sugar is for you. I'm gonna assume that you already know that, nor is it promoting it, but it is instead about some actual strategies we can implement when maybe we made a decision that wasn't aligned with our highest self, because these moments in life happen. So we're really going to cover two things today in this video. So the first thing is what you can do immediately or up to 2 hours after eating too much sugar. Apparently this is a pretty highly searched term in Google, but even if you're past that stage, you'll know what you can potentially do next time this comes up. And then the second thing we're going to cover is what to do in the sugar hangover stage, whether this is later that night, the next morning, so you can get back to your baseline as soon as possible. Now, if you've just consumed a bunch of sugar and you're not feeling too physically full or sick, the best thing that you can actually do is eat something more substantial, specifically something with fat, fiber, and protein. But if you're not up for a meal, then don't worry, because even having a few handfuls of peanut butter can be really helpful, and I'm going to tell you why. This is because within 2 hours after consuming a fair amount of sugar, your blood sugar is going to rise and spike, and this is more likely to lead to what is called reactive hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar, because the higher you spike, the lower you often crash. This is part of what causes symptoms like shakiness, anxiety, irritability, because your body releases stress hormones in response to the low blood sugar, like cortisol and adrenaline. Fat, fiber, and protein is what helps slow the absorption of simple sugars. So if it's still early enough to add some fat and some protein onto your sugar binge, then this may significantly help reduce the severity of some of those symptoms. Number 2 is hydration. Yes, sugar is actually incredibly dehydrating, and this dehydration factor may also be playing a role in some of the symptoms that you get. Stick with me for a minute here. When you have a ton of sugar, your blood glucose is going to rise. Too much sugar in the bloodstream triggers the pancreas to release insulin, which helps sugar pass into cells. Metabolizing sugar utilizes water and therefore increases our body's need for water. And also, when we're hyperglycemic, essentially when there's too much sugar, our sodium levels actually decrease, and this is why eating too much sugar can then lead to salt cravings afterwards. Symptoms of low sodium are, in fact, salt cravings, but you may also develop a headache. You can also feel anxious. Consuming more salt may help you satisfy this low sodium issue and may even help you feel more relaxed. So electrolytes can be really helpful after a sugar binge, not just for the sodium, but for the potassium, because potassium is really important when it comes to overall electrolyte balance. And that being said, you definitely want to make sure that whatever electrolyte you're using, it contains a decent amount of potassium in there. I will leave a link to some of my favorite ones below if you just want to have one on hand or you don't already have one that you like. And the third hack is exercise. Now, if you're feeling physically ill, you probably don't feel like going for a run, and don't worry, that's actually not what we're going for. And I am 100% not recommending that you go to the gym and try and work off the sugar. That could actually cause more issues. What we're going for is light exercise, like a brisk walk. Taking a walk really after eating anything helps you minimize the rise in glucose because your body uses that up for fuel. It's been shown that even taking a 2-minute walk after meals can help blood sugar levels rise and fall more gradually. So exercise increases glucose uptake, which is what we want if we just ate a bunch of sugar. We don't want to do intense physical activity that can lead to a rise in adrenaline or cortisol, because for some people, this often leads to a temporary spike in our blood sugar due to the production of these stress hormones, which, remember, we're trying to avoid the spike as much as possible since we're already likely rising due to the amount of sugar that we've ate. So those are the hacks that you can turn to if you've ate sugar fairly recently, but let's say that it's either later that day or maybe it's the next morning. What can we really do to support ourselves during that sugar hangover phase? Number one is to focus on or continue to focus on hydration. So just like being hungover from alcohol, staying hydrated is really going to be our best defense and not being so groggy the next day. So once again, I would recommend doing an electrolyte, and that way you can try and maintain mineral balance as best as possible. Number two is going to be being very intentional about your next meal. So whether this is dinner later that evening or it's breakfast the next morning. And here's what you want to do at your next meal. Similarly to like we were talking about fat, fiber, and protein before, we want to do something similar at our next meal, but we really want to focus on having adequate amounts of fat and protein. If you feel like you did have a big sugar crash and maybe did have some reactive hypoglycemia, then you may want to include a small amount of carbs to help bring your levels up a little bit. But when I say little, I mean like a handful of berries little alongside that protein and fat, like eggs and sausage would be great things to eat the next morning or for breakfast, for example. The first meal that you eat after a sugar binge is really important because it's either gonna set you up for success in terms of stabilizing that blood sugar, or it's gonna continue to throw it off and kind of continue that cycle. And the third thing that is super helpful for me, and this is something that you can also do sooner than later, kind of just depends on when it works in this instance that has happened, is taking a probiotic. So whether it's the night before you go to bed after eating a bunch of sugar or when you wake up the next morning, taking a probiotic can really help reduce some of these sugar side effects for a few reasons. It may help you escape digestive side effects, but then it can also really help with your mood as well. See, sugar causes a lot of inflammation in the gut, and when there's a lot of inflammation in the gut, we receive those inflammatory signals via the gut-brain axis, and this can actually be what causes mood disturbances for many people. Now, I wouldn't exactly recommend going out and getting a probiotic or trying one that you've never had before during a circumstance like this, because you never really know how you're going to react to a probiotic digestively the first time you take it. But if you have one that you take for daily use, you can also kind of use probiotics as like a gut ibuprofen. In addition to taking a probiotic daily, I will also use my daily probiotic if a certain circumstance comes up, like maybe I ate something and it's just kind of not agreeing with me, or maybe I ate too much of something or ate too much in general, and I'm just trying to avoid the impact that that circumstance is ultimately going to have on my gut, my digestive system, my mood, or how I feel overall. So it could be a really great idea to have a probiotic on hand if you don't have one already. Now, I would love to hear from you. Do you have something that helps you after you ate too much sugar that maybe I didn't mention? Please let us all know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.